Hello everybody, hope you guys had a happy holiday and or a good new year depending on what time you're viewing this video. My name's YungFalcon and today I want to talk about the best games, or let me rephrase, my favorite games that I played throughout 2021. These are some must plays in my opinion, definitely think you should check some of them out, but just going to be talking about the games that I've played throughout the year because it was a very strange year for the industry. We had a lot of ports, remasters, re-releases and whatnot, and personally I'm just not up in the top 10 spirit. I don't really feel like ranking what's like best to worst and whatnot. I just didn't really feel that energy. This year was a year where I did a lot of reflection and played a lot of games, and I thought pretty much everything I played was quality minus like one or two games that were just very disappointing, which we will kind of briefly go over in this video. So enjoy this giant info dump, if you will. Overall, my favorite stuff that I played throughout 2021, and again, for the numbers, they're not in any particular order. I'm just ranking them so I know mentally where to put timestamps. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this long form video and stay tuned at the end for an update on the channel. So let's kick things off with my second favorite game of last year, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Firstly, I gotta say I love that 60 FPS upgrade they added. The improved lighting and textures just goes such a long way in making FF7 look better and play better than ever before. On top of that, that wasn't really the main draw this time around. They added a whole new DLC expansion with Yuffie, which already showed off what next gen is going to be doing for Final Fantasy VII Remake. As you could clearly tell, they went hard in the level design aspects, not having all those weird shimmying through walls to mask loading screen stuff and whatnot. It just instantly goes into gameplay. It feels a lot more open-ended. And I gotta traverse throughout Yuffie's DLC without ever seeing a loading screen once, which is very good for replayability. I really also enjoyed the writing on display here. It was superb. It takes one of the most annoying characters in FF7, in my opinion, Yuffie, and made her actually a lot more relatable and bright-eyed and a cool fledgling member of the Wutai trying to do what she can to prove herself to take down the evil corporation that is Shinra. And it just goes a long way making her a lot more fun to follow than generic annoying thief with family issues like in FF7 original. Her buddy Sunon was also really sick. He's a pretty cool side character, a bit stoic for my taste, but I like how he had a soft spot for Yuffie, and the dynamic they had was just excellent. And the OST, man, it was so solid. It really gave off these like anime OVA vibes. I don't know how to explain it. It was very jazzy, very different than what I was used to in Final Fantasy, and it just works here. Overall, definitely a campaign I really recommend, and it was one of the high parts of 2021 for me, free. And if you haven't played it yet, well, you got two different ways, PlayStation 5 or the PC copy, although you might want to wait for a couple patches on the PC part. Next up, we have Tales of Arise, a game I have about 4 to 5 hours in at the moment. It's got a really fun combat system, some really compelling characters, and I like where the story's going, but sadly just haven't had the time to finish the game. I am enjoying it so far, and you'll definitely see me talk about it more, whether it be on Twitter or in a video format, but yeah, definitely one I'm a little bit sad I skipped out on. Moving away from the JRPG and moving into the first-person shooter, we gotta talk about Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village, and I gotta say, it was outstanding for me. I love the atmosphere of that wintry village it gave off. It gave me hardcore Resident Evil 4 vibes, and shooting down hordes of werewolves and all the other fantastical beasts was never not fun. Lady Dimitrescu's castle was also a beautiful way to start the game. I was hooked and engrossed from the beginning, and hearing all the audio cues of the footsteps walking or the bugs zipping behind your ear and whatnot, like all of that was outstanding. The level design overall was pretty substantial. There was one section in particular that just didn't work for me, which was this water level, but other than that, everything was top notch. My personal favorite, of course, being the dollhouse section with that one monster that is beyond terrifying, and I can't wait to experience it with the Resident Evil 8 VR patch that recently dropped and give it another shot. Is it the best entry in the RE franchise? Probably not, right? I definitely think there's better, but personally, I thought it was an awesome entry. I loved how the story wrapped up, and I'm really looking forward to where Resident Evil goes in the future. And of course, in the AAA landscape, when it seemed like all hope was lost, Halo Infinite comes out and floors pretty much everyone. Outstanding work over at 343, because this is a Halo game that finally, in my opinion, lives up to the franchise's namesake, and I just went super in-depth with this game over in my review, so to spare myself going a little insane, I'm going to link down below the review and in a card so I don't repeat myself like a broken record, but I gotta say, it's incredible. Halo feels great. The grappling hook usage and the ways you could use it in the environment are awesome, and the enemy AI is pretty challenging, and it never gets too easy. I always felt like I was always getting pushed to my limits, exploring the vast open world. That's also pretty riveting to pick up all all the different items and upgrades and whatnot in. My only hope is we get more stuff soon for multiplayer updates, although I think they're already rectifying that with SWAT and a couple other modes being added. So just more maps, please, and of course a campaign expansion in the near future would be immaculate. Once again, good work to everyone over there, and you guys deserve a well-earned break. Alright, quick little JRPG lightning around here because I didn't finish these two, so let's start with Scarlet Nexus. In Scarlet Nexus' case, the story is really good. I'm engrossed with the characters. I play Kasane's run right now, and I really like what's going on top of the really outstanding presentation and graphical elements. It looks beautiful on either Series X or PC or even PS5, all the platforms I have it on, but the gameplay is just a tad too repetitive for me. It's a little bit clunky, it's a little bit stale after a while, even with the psychotic abilities that you could use. It's just, I don't know, I need a little bit more, so I'm giving it a break for now, and I'm going to come back with a fresh new set of eyes and whatnot, and hopefully give it a second chance. And then in Shin Megami Tensei 5's case, the gameplay and fusion system I've been in love with. I spent like 30-40 hours already grinding and finding all the different fusions I could get. However, the lore and the dungeon design and the story overall is just not really doing it for me, and I wanted a bit more. However, I am willing to look back to and get into it when I finally have the time to, and I can't wait to listen to more of that awesome SMT music and keep fusing some more demons, I suppose. And if I were to choose my favorite indie game of the year, it'd be Severed Steel. Movement-based shooters are kind of my jam right now, and Severed Steel's got everything I love. Wall running, sliding, gun fu, bullet time, parkour, and even a slew of melee takedowns make this game very fun to play, and chances are, if you could think it, you could definitely pull it off in the heat of combat. It's also got full voxel destruction, so you could blow holes through levels, go for those oh so crispy one taps, find pathways and openings to make speedrun routes and whatnot. It's a very fast paced and fun game, whether you're using slow-mo or not. It's got a cool cyberpunk aesthetic, and on top of that, a banging EDM soundtrack that makes this game a must play for 2021. And I'll be going even further in depth with another video soon because I love it that much. Oh, and workshop support, so if there's any more levels you want to play, the community's got your back. Please play Severed Steel. Nier Replicant, despite some interesting OST changes from the original, is a faithful remaster of the OG Nier. Toy Logic made the combat feel just a bit better, but still kept the feeling of the game like it's a chore when it comes to combating with the shades. As for plot and the graphics, etc., I mean, it looks incredible. I love the new models and the main cast, and the 60 FPS was a nice step up from what we dealt with before. Unless you own an Xbox Series X with an original copy of Nier, then you're enjoying 60 FPS on a 360 game. Anywho, Nier Replicant was awesome. I really liked the story and the multiple endings that Taro is trademarked for at this rate, and the ending definitely had me tearing up. Fun times all around, and if you haven't picked it up yet, absolutely add it to the backlog. Keeping on the remastered train, I'm so happy to see Super Monkey Ball back. The game's physics definitely still need a little bit of tweaking for that authentic GameCube Monkey Ball feel, but aside from that, it's an awesome product containing 2 full games, deluxe levels, tons of minigames, all for a pretty darn good price of $40. If you like Monkey Ball, just give it a play. You can't go wrong. I gotta be honest and say, this game was my biggest disappointment of 2021. Is Deathloop a bad game per se? Absolutely not. It's got really solid movement, all of those fun Dishonored-esque powers make their way here, and the guns, albeit on the safe side, are pretty fun and fine to use. That being said, there's no morality system for going in guns blazing, which is awesome. However, there's also no punishment for going in guns blazing either, because the game is just a bit too easy. Even from the start of the game, I spent all my levels just running through one-tapping all the drone henchmen, reaching my target, and essentially decimating them because of how easy this game is. The level design also personally felt pretty linear compared to other Arcane titles, especially after coming off of Prey and other games. And then you couple that with the bare-bones story, and yeah, it didn't feel satisfying reaching that conclusion. It all accumulated in frustration when I reached the timeline, like the final parts of it. All I realized was I knew exactly how to set up for this big kill, taking out all the visionaries one by one as the game wants you to. I go to do it, and the game blocks me from doing so because I was there a bit too early, and then even though I knew exactly how to do it and even set it up with turning on the fireworks and whatnot, I had to go replay the ending section again because I was moving too quick for the game's timeline to catch up. Personally, that didn't really feel like an Arcane thing to do, and I just wish the game stopped holding my hand throughout the entire runtime and gave me some freedom within the story itself to do what I want whenever I want, similar to pretty much every Arcane title that I've played. And moving from one Sony exclusive to another, let's talk about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I thought the game overall felt really good. It looked absolutely incredible, like a dream come true for Ratchet fans, especially in terms of the level design and gameplay and how they handled those crack in time ambitions. Feel like fully realized here on the PS5. Like being able to pull the Rift towards you and, you know, moving through multi-layered levels in real time is super dope, especially when you just enter pocket dimensions, do an objective there and walk out like nothing happened, all in like 60 FPS and stuff. Like really impressive, honestly, really impressive. Of course, it's standard Ratchet & Clank gameplay. You jump, you dodge, you shoot, you take out enemies. It looks great, it feels nice. Do wish the enemies put up a bit more of a challenge even on the hardest difficulty, but that's neither here nor there. Overall, really good time, really good game. One gripe, one gripe, I just don't like Rivet. Please don't make Rivet the main character for the next game. I can't stand her. I was bad enough I had to play with her a lot here. I was expecting like her not to be as like prominent, if that makes sense, but she was a big deal and I thought she was really annoying, honestly. Just Ratchet & Clank, please. I'm a little biased. I just like my platformers to be, you know, about the characters that are on the box. It's just Ratchet & Clank. I bought the game for Ratchet & Clank, not Rivet and Kid. Overall, still a really good time. Despite that small nitpick, the game is still really fun and I recommend it to you, especially if you have the elusive PS5. And if you happen to get one, this is going to be a great job showcasing what your console can do, and you get a pretty good adventure out of it. Omori was the very first RPG I beat in 2021, and gosh, what a ride it was. It had some cool animations, the art style was pretty okay, despite being a little bit childish for my taste, but it works with the themes and aesthetic, and I really loved the combat of the game. The emotion system was really sick to mess around with, making enemies either sad or angry and trying to manage all their buffs and debuffs and their strength and weaknesses during the heat of turn-based combat was really awesome to experience. And that OST, man, ridiculously good, banging soundtracks. However, it all came to a screeching halt for me as I made my way through more of the story, and without spoiling the game any, I just wasn't impressed with the ending, let alone any of the characters that were throughout the game. It left a really sour taste in my mouth, that ending, and everything else surrounding it just didn't really hit for me. The only character I liked was Aubrey, who's, you know, I guess admittedly meant to be cool, but the game's darker themes, what it tries to cover, was more coming off as shock value for the sake of shock value rather than an in-depth tell on mental illness and whatnot. And it feels like it tries to borrow so much from other indie games that it's clearly inspired by that it loses itself in translation. This game feels like one giant kind of fan project homage to all these other indie horror RPG Maker titles before it, and it just doesn't hit the landing on any of them. Definitely a game that just didn't really work for me. If you don't mind a game that, you know, goes into some darker themes, you know, suicide, child death, some other unsettling stuff, then you could give this one a try if you want to. Just be mentally prepared while playing it. You might take away something that I definitely couldn't grasp, but yeah, it's just okay to me. And don't think I'm slandering Omori, by the way. I had other RPGs that I played this year and enjoyed, one of which being Deltarune Chapter 2. I thought this was a banger. Toby Fox knocks it out of the park once again. I really like the Y2K aesthetic we go to in this game. I thought the way the town was laid out and all the puzzles and stuff you have to solve were really fun. The enemies you take on were really quirky and great, and I once again like the fact that I could just talk my way out of combat, not have to engage, not have to fight and all that, and that's always a really cool thing to me. My other favorite part of the game was the dialogue. I thought the characters were really endearing this time around. Where Susie was a little bit annoying in Chapter 1 for me, I actually really came around to liking her a lot in this title. And Rizalzi, I don't pronounce the name, I'm sorry. He was also funny as can be. I think he's a great foil to kind of what Susie and his relationship have going on. I think it's pretty funny. The new girl, Noelle, and her crush on Susie and how they're trying to manage that is going to be fun to explore throughout future Deltarune chapters. And of course, the overarching themes of what's going to happen next throughout Deltarune has been a fun plot thread to be hooked on year after year. Hopefully soon we get access to more Deltarune stuff, because I really am fiending for content, and I think this game's going to go down as one of my favorite RPGs out there. But as of now, it's just a really good title that you should definitely play. It's free. Like, just give it a shot. It's like 4 or 5 hours, I think, for both chapters. Definitely a good time. For a first crack at a video game, I'd say Ember Labs did a real bang up job with Kenna Bridge of Spirits, a game that is beyond beautiful and really squeezes UE4 to the best of its abilities, and its adventure game design is very akin to early 3D Zelda titles like Majora's Mask. I mean, you even use masks to find certain secrets in areas and whatnot. And of course, given their animation real history, you can definitely tell that was by design. The story was pretty heartfelt, which took me by complete shock, and the combat was very challenging and offered really rewarding experiences when tackling a hard room. Like, they even have a parry button, which was always satisfying to pull off, even if the parry window could be just a little bit wider, just a tad bit wider. And all the raw actions and things you can do to pin enemies down, shoot them from far with arrows, and use your giant rot hammer ability to slam down on enemies, like, that was really awesome and crazy to pull off. There's also really great environmental puzzles with those cute little rock creatures that you saw, and the game's charm just constantly kept a big old grin on my face despite the story being a little bit on the sad side. Definitely worth a playthrough if you haven't played this one already. After years of Kickstarters and dev diaries, Psychonauts 2 launched this August in a flawless state, and what a breath of fresh air it was. It was nice to get an engaging collectathon 3D platformer again, and Raz and all the movement abilities you gain make traversing these mind-warping levels an absolute blast. Rolling around on a levitation ball, jumping and floating down with a balloon in style, man, that is exactly what I come to expect when I pop in a 3D platformer. Oh, coupled with awesome level design, it really stands out in classic Psychonauts fashion. We have sensory overloads we're fighting through, casinos, dental offices. The sheer variety of levels never ceases to impress me. The dialogue had me laughing all the way at all the awkward jokes. The heart of the game was really the story for me. I love seeing how all the different characters interacted, and I wanted to see Raz the Psychonauts pull through in the end more than anything and do all I could in my power as a player to keep the Psychonauts together no matter what dangers or plot twists came our way. On top of the wonderful story and platforming, we had a robust combat system to boot, at least for a 3D platformer. Sometimes I wish there was just a horde style mode where you could just jump in and bash on some enemies because I had that much fun. You're always dodging and weaving away from projectiles, hitting devastating 3-hit combos, using all your various psi abilities to exploit enemy weaknesses and then lay on the hurt. You'll always find yourself hot swapping and switching between your abilities when it comes to taking on harder enemies, and that's one of the reasons why I thought Psychonauts 2 was such an incredibly refreshing title. So we're going to put two of my favorite roguelikes I grinded throughout this year, the first of which a returning honorable mention from last year, Gunfire Reborn, a fast-paced FPS where you take down an onslaught of foes, grab relics, grab scrolls, upgrade yourself throughout the run, and of course, my favorite part, switching from gun to gun on the floor as you go through rooms, clearing enemies, and seeing all the different wacky reload animations, fire rates, and elemental abilities these guns have. There's also now 5 characters you could pick between, each offering their own abilities and perks, which leads to endless replayability per run, along with an elite difficulty that bumps it up to something that goes pretty easy when you're all decked out to something that is very, very difficult even with a decked out character. Then there's Curse of the Dead Gods, a top-down dungeon crawler that I simply couldn't get enough of at the start of this year. You start as a meager treasure hunter armed with a weak old sword and a weak old pistol. However, slowly you build up your armory as you come to grips with the Curse of the Gods inflicted upon you, and you clear room to room and try to take them down. See, what makes this game interesting, however, is the sheer punishment you face doing what feels like anything. Want a better weapon? Trade your health or get cursed. Simply leaving a room? Face curse damage. Fighting a hard boss? You already know what's coming next, right? Like, the inevitability of your curse bar getting maxed out and you're faced with a randomized punishment that'll stick with you throughout the remainder of your run is very real. Personally, I don't mind the mechanic, and sometimes not all curses are bad. Some are kind of beneficial to your playstyle, like dealing double damage while taking double damage is a nice risk reward, along with cool gimmick ones like turning you into the soul from dead cells. So those are like my 2 roguelike recommendations for 2021, but I know for a fact I'm missing out on a couple of games that I really wanted to play, like Inscription and Dandy Ace, and there was one other, I think Skull Legendary Hero. Hopefully we get time to make our way to play those games, but if not, it's all good. I'll definitely get to them sometime soon. Metroid Dread, an immaculate return to form, and does something fresh with the Metroid franchise while pushing it in the right direction both gameplay and story wise. The atmosphere in OST went a long way in making me feel, well, dreadful for lack of a better term, and the Emmys offered a terrifying threat that felt really awesome to take down once you returned all powered up after tiptoeing and being cautious through their zones prior. The boss fights also left a huge grin on my face as I finally put 2 and 2 together and outsmarted the big bads like the cool bounty hunter I am, and the game ran at a silky smooth 60 FPS, which is a hard thing to do on the Nintendo Switch these days, along with really great controls. Everything feels so intuitive, natural if you will. The stunning art direction also helped permanently etch the map in my head, so looking for which items I forgot on a map and going back and completing my checklist was too much fun. Whatever Mercury's team is cooking up next, just know I'll be there, excited to play their next title. It Takes Two was the best co-op experience I've ever had free. A game about trying to rekindle a failed romance while completing ridiculous platforming challenges, versing each other in minigames, and finally working together to take on larger-than-life boss fights. I played this local co-op with my significant other, and we had the dumbest grins on our faces as we went throughout the roughly 10-hour campaign. It was just so full of charm, and the visuals really hit home that you're just a bunch of tiny clay dolls running around a larger-than-life world with extremely detailed texture work on about every object in the game. Seeing all the foliage in the backyard, the individual strands of cloth and whatnot throughout the house, and some really shiny reflections during a certain space station part, well, let's just say it was definitely visually pleasing to the eyes on the Xbox Series X. And speaking of that, the game looked and ran very smoothly on my console, 60 FPS all the way through, which is important for these types of platforming games. Movement was top notch. They give you a little roll to help build up speed, and you get equipment throughout the game like grappling hooks, rogue riding, ice skating, and much more to make everything feel very fluid as you traverse this world. Couple that with some extremely creative and oftentimes head-scratching puzzles, and you get a recipe for success when it comes to playing with a co-op partner. By far one of my all-time favorite games and one of my favorite co-op games free as of right now, and I definitely recommend it if you have someone to play with. It's also free with a friend if you have them get the Friends Pass, which is great. Monster Hunter Rise was a banger Monster Hunter game, and one that I actually ended up playing a lot more than Monster Hunter World just because it felt a lot more faster paced. Like, you just kind of pop in, go to a hub world, queue up a quest, go in there, do what you need to do, and keep your day pushing. Very similar to the 3DS games, if that makes sense. It also is the most mobile and, dare I say, easy Monster Hunter game to date. The wire bug mechanic lived rent-free in my head during the playtime of this game, letting you grapple towards the big monsters and take them down, or you could reach high heights while wall running and whatnot. That was super fun to pull off. And of course, that grind was so fun. Every weapon I got to use had like a second lease on life basically, because you could customize what you want the actions to be with the wire bug usage. You could either be offensive with it, defensive with it, or use it for mobility options, which opens the floodgates for the various things you can do during the heat of combat. It goes without saying that, yeah, weapons are just a blast to use, and my favorite of which was easily the dual blades. It lets you unlock rage mode, climb up and slash monsters on your way up and down. It just feels super disgusting to annihilate beasts with just 2 blades in hand. The maps were also seamless to explore, which is nice, and the monsters they added, both new and old, were plenty fun to take down. Personally for me, MH Rise was just a fun little comfort game. I liked hopping in, hunting the monsters, getting new gear, and grinding a bit over the weekend, and then keeping it pushing for the day. Also, shoutouts to the soundtrack for being incredibly good. Yeah, definitely recommend this one, especially can't wait to delve back in there when it comes out on PC later this year. I am so sorry I didn't review this game last year, but here's my quick review. Guardians of the Galaxy was my biggest surprise hit of 2021 for me. All the trailers and E3 buzz made this game look so weak, but once I started playing it and getting a feel for the combat and hearing the banter, so on and so forth, I quickly fell in love with it. The graphics of the game were beautiful, excellent particle effects with sparks going flying during combat and set piece moments, awesome lighting, and really strong locales that made it feel like a galaxy trotting adventure. As for the gameplay, it doesn't slack either. Playing as Star-Lord made me feel like a leader thanks to the game's quick menu letting me select and stack abilities from the various guardians on the team. You get to combo enemies by pinning them down with branches and throwing out a grenade from Rocket, or calling in Drax to aggro enemies and taking the brunt of the damage as the muscle he is, or using Gamora just to knock people up in the air for you to hit. It's very combo heavy and surprisingly arcade-like, which definitely helps with the 80s aesthetic they're going for Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you call upon them and huddle them together, give some words of encouragement as Peter, and the 80s music starts blaring, and you take down the opposition with a nice little damage boost. That stuff was so charming I couldn't help but giggle and get hype. Characters were just super endearing. Despite the constant banter throughout the game, I never got bored of the conversations once, and during the quiet times I was actually waiting for someone to drop a one-liner or joke just to hear some more of the interactions. weapons, and I wanted to see the whole team succeed, and even felt a bit bad for the villains during the plot. If you turn away to this game due to the marketing and whatnot, I implore you to give this game a shot. You're gonna definitely be in for a huge surprise. This one had to be here. Nothing beats when a new fighting game drops and everyone's scrambling to post combos, share tech, lab and training mode, and of course, the constant influx of memes we get during a new launch. And despite me having my gripes to strive on a competitive level, it's still easily the best fighting game on the market with 10 out of 10 online play, a robust roster that feels unique from character to character, and the second best soundtrack, including songs that have been stuck on loop since before the game came out. Then you throw in that trademark ArcSys graphical presentation and it looks gorgeous to play both on and offline, and you get arguably the best fighting game of this generation. On a personal note, I think it gave me my favorite character in fighting game history currently, which is Giovanna. She is so much fun to play, and I made so many memories with you guys at home engaging with the streams and videos that I put out, and I gotta say thank you all so much for that. And of course, I'll be back soon, just biding my time. I cannot stress enough how brilliant Returnal is. It's a simple premise. You crash land on an alien planet, fight some monsters, discover a past version of yourself, and run around 3 randomly generated biomes trying to fix this endless death loop as you find weapons, perks, and much more, including lore, and, you know, make your way off planet. It's a story and gameplay loop addicting as they come, and the combat constantly puts you on edge as bullets will fill the screen in massive ball-shaped patterns similar to the Nier games. You're trying to dodge all these alien life forms that want to feast and chomp on your flesh, and then you get to go through the game in a Metroidvania style, unlocking various things like the grappling hook and a better dodge and boost that will help you get through lasers and clear large gaps, and it's just so well crafted. The gunplay is also very nice, with a ton of strange but fun to use weapons, each offering a little something for each run. The biomes, they just ooze personality, and if you have a good pair of headphones, you're gonna get a good host of creepy crawly sounds, real crunchy gun noises, and some otherworldly music that drones in the background that sets up for an immersive yet haunting experience. I love the lightning fast-paced combat, and it's a game that I've yet to get bored of and I'm still playing to this day. Now, I'm not doing a countdown like I said this year, but I do have a definitive game of the year, and it is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, Neo: The World Ends With You. It is one of the best JRPGs I've played in recent memory. Incredible character writing with an endearing cast I can't help but fall in love with, a surprisingly varied gameplay loop that has you balancing cooldowns on moves and setting up for hard-hitting combos to effectively wipe a group of enemies off the map, and the art style was just superb. The 3D visuals look nice and clean, along with some outstanding cell shading. They did a great job porting that 2D look over to the 3D game, and I just wish this game got more clout. I've already went super in-depth on this one, especially in-depth on this one, about how much I love Neo: The World Ends With You. I really wish this game got the respect it deserved. It is, no joke, top 5 JRPGs for me. One of the all-time best RPGs, actually, that I've played in quite some time. Like, it's definitely up there in my top, 5. I really wish this game got the respect it deserved. It is an incredible title, and if you haven't yet, I'm not going to say anything more. Just please play Neo: The World Ends With You. It's cheap everywhere. You definitely deserve to play this one. Hey y'all, thank you guys so much for watching the 2021 best of video. I had a blast covering all the games that I talked about. There were a couple disappointments as per usual, but overall it was a good year. It was a very good year, and I played a lot of bangers, right? I had a lot of fun. There were some JRPGs I really wish I got to finish. I'm sorry, I know I need to be SMT5, I need to be Scarlet Nexus. I'm getting around to them, but I just wasn't really in the mood. I wasn't really feeling it. I do also really want to finish Tales of Arise first, I think, out of all of them, because I'm having the most fun with that one as of right now. Overall, really good year for 2021. Games were banging. As for the future of the channel, don't worry, we're getting back to GG soon. I'm actually just waiting for Biken to drop at this rate, and then I'm just gonna play Biken, get you guys with some more reviews and stuff soon, and I'm going to be leaning a lot more into video essay content, so uploads are just going to be a little more infrequent. I'm just going to take my time with content and whatnot, like I already stated previously, and keep it pushing. Thank you guys so much for watching, staying tuned, liking, subscribing, helping spread the videos. It means so much, and I wish you all the best 2022 going into it. I'm taking my mild. I just want this year to be okay. I just want this year to be fine, right? Because it's just been such a rough last 2 years, but we'll see what happens. Thank you all once again. Wish you all the best. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Peace.